Okay, I just started the recording as well.
Okay, perfect. So hello and welcome. Happy Wednesday. Happy homecoming week. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Mary Maynor, and I am the Vice President of the USM Association of Office Professionals. I have been serving in this role for the last year, supporting our awesome President, Dr. Joyce Powell. So as an organization, we are dedicated to providing opportunities for communication and relationship building among members of our campus community. Membership of AOP is open to all USM support staff. Associate membership is open to supervisors of USM support staff. And the USM AOP is affiliated with the Mississippi Association of Education Office Professionals, MAOP, and the National Association of Educational Office Professionals. So today we're going to be sharing information about artificial intelligence now and in the future. Our awesome presenter is Associate Director of Compliance and Ethics, the wonderful Jennifer S. Lewis. And Jennifer does a wonderful job keeping us abreast of what's going on out there in the world of technology, and she's going to share some great information today. So thanks again for joining, and here you are, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Mary. So let's get started. So today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence, where it's going, where it's at, and what we need to know about it so we can kind of stay tuned as everything is coming about. It's a very changing time. You've probably heard a lot about AI in the news. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what we're going to learn about today. So AI, what is it? What is ChatGPT? I'm sure you've heard that term. We're going to look at different ways that AI can be used at your office, in your life. Ethical concerns, which is a big thing lately. It's been in the news. And then future consequences of using AI. How's it going to affect us long term? So let's get started and go about getting your thoughts on artificial intelligence. Is it scary? Is it fun? Is it exciting? I'm going to put this, let me get out of this mode, and put this link in the chat so that you can fill out this chat. And if you'll take a second to let us know what you think about artificial intelligence, and I'll get back to the slideshow. Let's take 2 minutes to share our thoughts. It doesn't work very well unless you have it small. So we've got the timer on and you've got some time to think about it. What words are you thinking about when you think about artificial intelligence? What's your first thought? Nope, I think that was pretty quick. Did everybody get finished? Anybody still need any more time? Are we all good? Okay, we're going to get on to the next slide. Oh, look, here we go. So we've got some responses. Interesting. Everybody's excited about it. Cheating. Yes, that's a big thing. Shortcut, dangerous, scary, scary. Yeah, it is scary. It's the unknown. I try to think about it as dangerous. It can be dangerous in the wrong hands. And actually, lately on NPR, they've been talking about if we ever got to the point, and y'all remember this from the Terminator movies, where it actually could make its own decisions and basically we wouldn't need to make any decisions. That was the big thing because it's very much responsible. It could be made responsible for more and more military actions, including, what planes go where and what the planes do. Those type of split-second decisions, which they would apply algorithms to make. So I put something fun and very innocuous, which is, R2-D2 there. That was, the robot I always wanted and I still don't have. So one of these days we will get to that point. So I'm going to go back to this slide. So here's some terms that you may hear about during our presentation and some things to think about. These are all terms that relate to artificial intelligence in some way, shape, or form. From speech recognition that you may have seen or enjoy with I know I love Alexa, or natural language processing, you may have heard, as it tries to predict things that you're going to say as you're typing them. You may have experienced that when you do your Google search or your Bing search. Bing is in partnership with OpenAI. So often if you bring up the Bing page, that automatically comes up unless you change your browser. You will get some suggestions from Bing on different things that it would like to say to you based on what search you put in there. Generative AI, creating more content and more complex thought process and algorithms, and ChatGPT, which we'll talk about a little bit here. What is artificial intelligence? Well, the AI developer coined the phrase, John McCarthy, which, I had not heard of him before, but it's really based on recognizing patterns and things, understanding natural language, and making decisions. So it helps to analyze data. The more data that it consumes, the more reliable its decisions are. So I saw something today that said that the Alexa was less complex than Google, because Google lets you use a wider variety of, answers to interact with it. So it was able to process more data. So simple things like what parameters you put in there affects the degree to which it can learn. And it is learning. And so that's why it's trying to figure out the patterns of everything that we do. And so we'll see that. For instance, once I had an app that was a dog barking app. And I noticed at first it was collecting data, but I didn't think about it, because it listens to you. And every time it would bark, I would hear different barks. And then finally, one day I recognized that it actually was barking with the bark of my dog. I recognized my dog's bark. It had recorded my dog's barking at some point and absorbed that content and was using it for its library of dog barks. So that's how it continues to learn based on the acquisition of more and more information. And speech recognition is one parameter of it. This is the AI hierarchy that someone developed. So on it, you see that artificial intelligence is at the very, very top. Then you have the image processing or symbolic learning. And then on the other side, you have the machine learning or recognizing the patterns, which we discussed. And then deep learning is where they're going to now, whether it's more complex decisions and more complex, an evolution toward it being independent and making larger scale decisions is the deep learning gets more complex. And you'll see speech recognition and natural language processing are there. And you may have experienced the natural language processing as well when you get some of those chatbots talking to you and you formulate different questions. They have a library of answers based on what they are predicting that you will ask them. And it continues to learn and learn, and that's how you get more complex answers and more accurate ones. So what does or how does artificial intelligence learn? Well, it creates learning modules using supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. So with supervised learning, it actually sets up information and you practice applying it. So you learn to code and then practice coding. So everything's a restricted process. So it's only so much that it can do. Unsupervised learning, there's no algorithms. They can generate different groups of information, so they're more free to learn a wider variety of information and to get more complex acquisition of information. And then reinforcement learning involves learning through repetition. So when the chatbots have certain number of people answer or request the same answer, they learn through that reinforcement that people are concerned with a certain issue. And that's what they usually call, let's say, the credit card company for, or Amazon for, when you get the little Amazon chatbot and it's telling you, that it can help you with these commonly raised questions. That's reinforcement learning. It's identified that through reinforcement that those are the commonly learned or asked questions. So categories of AI, there's 3 categories. So weak or narrow, it doesn't have the ability to learn facial recognition. It just scans your face. It's not doing anything more with that. Then we have the strong or generalized AI. It includes artificial intelligence. So it's looking at information, trying to derive patterns, and it's expanding its knowledge base exponentially. And then super AI. This is the AI that we're scared of and find scary with many Ys. This is the Terminator Judgment Day type situation where it's self-aware. It has not been implemented yet. I've heard predictions from 3 years to 5 years. The technology is going so quickly, it may be 3 or 5 years. And that's why you may have heard recently that there have been discussions in Congress about setting up a commission that is going to specifically deal with this. And there has been a meeting with the leaders, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, those guys. And those guys are concerned about what is going to happen and about the power that this could bring someone. So they're trying to figure out what parameters they can put in place to prevent the abuses that would come once self-awareness is achieved, and how someone could exploit that, not only as a, unconscionable action, but like in terms of a risk to us, you know. Again, it's learning on patterns. So when you're looking at patterns, there's also obviously a patterned way to figure out how to take something down. I don't know if you'll remember, in I think it was Terminator 2, one of my favorite movies, that the John, he goes to the ATM machine and he has his little laptop and he goes in there and he just runs code, just straight code. And eventually he hits upon how to open the ATM and all the money starts coming out. So again, it learns. And just like you run those patterns, if you run patterns enough, you'll find vulnerabilities. And that is the risk with using AI, that we don't put in the parameters for dealing with ethical issues as well as vulnerabilities with regards to security. So those are some of the concerns that they're discussing now with amongst the leaders of the information technology sectors. So generative AI, it creates content. This is the new thing that you may have heard upon. There's some new jobs related to this. So one is called like a sensory person, and what the job involves is actually the artificial intelligence creates content, and then you, as the sensor person, go in there and make it seem human. When we were talking earlier, somebody raised the concerns about how AI could be used to cheat. Well, this is, I guess, that potential. So they're trying to cheat the system by having AI do most of the legwork in generating something, and then someone else goes in and humanizes it. So this is what they're trying to do. Again, it's looking at patterns and it creates new content based on the patterns it finds. This is a process known as machine learning. And we talked about machine learning in that big diagram of all the different things that are related to AI, because it is a component of AI. And one subtype of machine learning is actually known as ChatGPT, which is created by a company called OpenAI. That is what we're using right now. And version 3 is I think it's 3.5 is the free version that you can use without expending any money. If you want state-of-the-art data, it is actually version 4, and it's a monthly charge. So let's talk about ChatGPT. It is a bright idea. It represents the next evolution, human-like conversations. It will write essays for you. It'll build your resume. It can even write complex code. So you could give it a command like code this content, and you'd paste the content, and make sure that it is coded accessible for WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 3.1 or whatever. And then it would actually put in all the codes needed, including very complex like area codes, which are complex different codes, and it would address all the elements. But the more specific you are, the more likely that what it provides you with is 100% correct. Because remember, it can only give you what it knows, which is important when you think about it. And we'll talk about that in a second. But GPT does stand for Generative Pre-training Transformer. It's a task-specific method. So the chatbot interacts with you, and this is how it learns. And you actually have different conversations, and you can save conversations so that it is like a linear conversation. So it learns based on everything you gave it, and it's contextual to that conversation. So here's an example of ChatGPT. Let me see if I can get it to go. Here we go. Look how quickly it does that. This is my favorite. So then we saw that. Oops. ChatGPT is also useful for creating your resume. You might not think that you need to update your resume, or you might think you could do it yourself. But as you will see shortly, it does a great job both with the verbiage as well as with the layout of it. So it looks really great. So let's take a second to look at that.
Jennifer, while we're looking at that, Mr. Landry in the chat box asks, is Google Bard a form of Chat GPT?
It is a separate system. It hasn't been as well used, but it is another one. There's another one coming up. Basically, Elon Musk was one of the original inventors or supporters of this OpenAI, and then he left that company, so he's creating another company as well. So there's a lot of companies coming up, even though we're using the term Chat GPT as if it's, the only way to do it. It's not. There's several different machinations based on who's bringing it up. Bard is one. I think Elias is another one that's coming up. So all these companies are just getting this from. It's just taking off rather quickly. And because Musk was involved with OpenAI originally, I think it just had the finances to get kind of ahead of everyone. But Bard is a form of that. So it just hasn't gotten the visibility that ChatGPT has. So let's look and see how nice these resumes are. And I haven't really updated the layout or look or verbs of my resume for about 10 years. So it's very plain. So it's automatically giving you better skills based on what it thinks I do. That's my old objective. It's very dated. So it fixed it up. And it gives you several options and you select the one you want. And look how much better that looks. So these run about $40 or so, but I mean, obviously hiring someone to complete your resume for you is much more expensive than $40. I think this one was like a monthly access thing, or they're just up auto renews for $23.95 every 4 weeks. So, and honestly, someone told me for the purposes of the resumes that you'd probably want to create several of them during that month for different potential jobs. And that way you'd have like an array of resumes that you would send out, one for customer service and one for technology and one for legal and one for project management. And then you would be set. You'd have all your resumes that you need for, less than $40 because it actually is $23.95 plus the $2.95. So it's about $26. So it's less than $30. So it's not very high, and you're getting a really quality result. It does a really good job. And this is just one of them. There's a variety of them out there, and some of them are a little bit more expensive, just based on maybe a little bit more like pictures and things that they add for your resume. Because I don't know if you've seen lately that, and Mary could probably speak to this, that some folks put their pictures on their resume, right, Mary?
You're correct. You're
Mhm.
correct, Jennifer.
And it was like the
Yes.
strangest thing ever. Someone applied for like our student worker job with their picture resume. And I was like, what? I was very surprised.
Yes.
So,
I love what Dr. John says in the chat box. Before you turn in that AI generated resume, you want to proof it. Generative
mhm.
AI tends to hallucinate.
Well,
I
and
love it.
it can think ahead and be very, I'll call it optimistic about what you are doing. So, how can I put this way? Okay, so my example is this, and we're going to talk about in the ethics, but Dr. John has raised a good point to discuss. So, some lawyers had the Chat GPT write their brief. Well, it did all the research and it wrote this really good brief, except, it's going on patterns. So its pattern told it to predict that there would be another case. And this case was basically like the premier case that was going to support their argument. And they turned it in. But in reality, the case didn't exist. That was a case they thought would occur in the future based on a pattern of all the past cases. So remember, it's predictive in nature. So in its altruistic endeavors of trying to help you, it may get confused and think that it could help you by letting you know what will happen in the future. But, we're operating on today, and that would be unethical. So they got a big fat fine. They were told that if they turned another brief in that was written by ChatGPT, they would face disbarment because it's unethical to have it write everything. And they obviously didn't proofread it or check their citations. So it can get you in some jams, that's for sure. So, tips: be specific. If you want a letter to your boss, you might want to say how many words, or you might want to say, I've worked there. You might could put some context. I've worked there for 5 years and I haven't had any issues with being late with assignments until now. That will help it to understand you and understand how it might highlight how great you are and why this is maybe a situation that will never occur again. It just was something that occurred this one particular time for whatever reasons. So the more information you feed into it, the more accurate and more approachable the information that you're going to get is going to be. It's going to be something that will seem more human. The more you're just saying a couple words and keeping it really tight, the less human in tone it's also going to sound. But you can also tell it that you want it to be in conversational tone or very formal tone. And those are things that you will see in some of the apps too. It's like if you go into Word and do an add in there, there are apps in there that will actually give you like a little pull down where it asks you what type of tone you're going to use. So those are the types of things you want to think about when you're just talking to Chat GPT. It doesn't have those pull down boxes, so you have to give it all the information. Small sentences, don't write a book. It can do a lot, but it processes things in spurts. So it's easier to give it short things Don't write, a long drawn out sentence with semicolons. Just write short little sentences and it will process it and be more accurate in what you get. Also, if you are going to ask it to write you an essay, you probably shouldn't, but let's say you were using it just to kind of get some thoughts, brainstorm for you. You could get it to provide resources or references, and then you could go back in and do the legwork of looking at those resources or references. It was also great at doing outlines. So like you can tell it that you wanted to outline this topic of parole, how it works in the United States and whether it's effective, and it will actually give you an outline that you could use. It was just a starting point, and that's really what it should be used as, a starting point. It should not be your end game. And also, again, remember to put how long a response you need. The longer, if you ask for a longer response, it may be better, and then you edit it down. But again, it's not going to be the final thing that you're going to present. So it should just be a tool to help you get started. And that's really ideally how it should function. So the final thing you're going to present is, ChatGPT, other ways to use ChatGPT. So ChatGPT can also be used on your phone. So instead of using, Siri on your phone, you could use ChatGPT. And granted, you do have to type, so it's not actually going to let you chat, voice chat, but it can give you a lot of information. Let's take a look at how it works on my Apple phone. Okay. You see it very quickly gives you all the ingredients and the measurements. You do have to scroll down. It's actually completed all that in seconds, but you have to scroll. This is quite a nice condolence email. But again, it's just going on a pattern of information that's already out there somewhere that it's pulled together to create this. The limitations of ChatGPT. The free version, the data is only as recent as 2021, so you can't ask it anything like about the Ukraine war in 2023 because it will not be able to provide you accurate information. To obtain current information, it is a rate of $20 a month. I have not succumbed to that, but I may. Because as it proves more and more useful, if it was voice and I could chat via voice on my phone, then I probably would pay the $20 a month. I'll be honest. But it just depends on how much you're going to use it. So I don't know how many of you use Grammarly AI or Grammarly for your writing, but I have the professional version, and it has actually gotten past the beta stage with implementation of AI. So it's trying to help you write even better by using AI. And so here's a short demo of what it will give you. Again, these are just ideas.
Jennifer, can you also address how can you address building and improving prompts for these types of wonderful services that AI has out there for us? There was a question in the chat.
Okay,
So
hold
can
on.
you
I can't,
address
I guess from
building?
the presentation mode, I can't see the chat. Hold on.
Okay.
I don't see it. Let me see if I can get it to go. Here it is. Um, yeah. So when you're looking at the prompts, you want to be more specific. So one of the things that was recommended was that you tell it the length of what you're putting in there. You tell it if you want references. And like I mentioned before, it's all about the details you give it. It can only give you what it thinks you want. So if you're unclear on what you want, I think that's probably your first step to start this conversation. Because again, it is a chat with it. So you have to input as much information with specificity that will allow you to get what you need. But I wanted to highlight again that you shouldn't be using it as your end game in terms of turning in what it gives you. It is a starting point. It should be a productivity tool. And from an ethical standpoint, it would be unethical to turn in exactly what it gives you. And I don't know, I mean, it's not bad, the content it gives you, don't get me wrong. It's just that it isn't yours. And let's say I look at Cindy's work all the time because I'm Cindy's supervisor. I would know she didn't write it. And that's the catch 22 of this. I would know someone didn't write it because if I know their work, I know how they write. You kind of get someone's tone over the course of knowing them and looking at their work. So that's important to consider. And that's one of the reasons that we're getting those tools in place to catch plagiarism, because you can tell, especially when you look at a wide variety of work, you can tell systematically what it's produced. And some of those tools that we're seeing are to catch instances of use of AI. So I think we'll see a proliferation of more of those tools moving forward, because I think even though people have been warned over and over again that they are not to use this as their own work and turn it in, there's still going to be some people who think that they can do so and not get caught. And that is not realistic, because it's pretty easy to see the limitations in it if you look at it. I said that's how I do my resumes. Yes. But again, Janelle, it does a really good job. But again, I would urge you to kind of look at it and do that and serve as the humanizer on your resume and make sure that it doesn't seem like a robot wrote it, because it can be a little bit too formal or a little bit too kind of restrictive in what it's thinking. So you want to make sure that if you read it, it makes sense to you. And I would recommend, honestly, if you're going to do your resume like this, send it to Cindy, send it to Mary, send it to Kelly, and ask them to take a look and see what they see. Because just because it was written by a computer with an algorithm doesn't mean it's perfect, and doesn't mean that it's going to be something that will catch someone's eye. It does need to have that human touch. It's kind of just a starting point. I do recommend that that's the most important thing in it. The other thing about building prompts that I wanted to mention is that you can get it to do a lot, but when you're thinking about it, it's kind of like you have to have a plan of what you're looking for as your goal. So before you start trying to put in things, it's like driving a car. You don't want to drive a car just aimlessly. You want to have a roadmap. So think of those prompts as your roadmap. Make sure, yeah, as a word for word guide, make sure that when you're thinking about what you want, you kind of have your little roadmap APA 7. I was thinking citing references source is acceptable. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely you want to cite all the sources, but some of those sources, I don't know if you saw when we were looking at those, they were kind of not the most, like one of the prompts you would have to put in there, Dr. John, would be something like journal articles. Only use references that are journal articles that are not more than 3 or 4 years old. That would be kind of important if you're really going to use this as something significant. Like if I wanted to use it to gather resources on food insecurity, then I would want to put those parameters or guardrails in to prevent me from getting things that are not going to be at the academic level. So like I think one of the things was like just a website, a .org site, which is great, except for it wouldn't be something I could really use. I need some journal articles. So that would be important. And of course, the citations should not be, you need to do your own citations with APA 7 because even if you told it to cite, I wouldn't rely on that because you don't want to make any type of mistakes. Again, it's still learning. And I'm using the free version, so I'm not even using the pay version. So its accuracy, I would say, in terms of, things like that would probably be at 80%. So it would be no different than when you try to do a video on YouTube and it tries to auto caption it for you and several things will be wrong. It's kind of like that same type of level. It's not learned enough to be perfect, and then you're not using the latest data. So when you compound those things, your reliability or how great and reliable and usable it is long term is not going to be to the level that you'd want to present in any type of paper. The next thing I wanted to go over are some add-ins and PowerPoints. We're always trying to make our PowerPoints look better, and we're always trying to do it as quick as possible. There are several add-ins for that. And let me get back here so I can go. Okay. So y'all see the slideshow again? Can y'all see the
Yes,
slideshow? Okay.
we see it. Thank
All right.
you.
So these are the three that I was thinking of. Microsoft Copilot is an all-around thing that has AI built in from the search bar to within things. So it's brand new and it hasn't fully launched. It's in beta, so you may get it on your personal computer, but it all just kind of luck of the draw. Slides AO is for Google Slides. They're working on a PowerPoint add-in, and then there's Beautiful AI. So I'm going to demo the Slides AI so you can see how it kind of works. It's all set up the same, regardless of what system you're using. And this will give you a little glimpse. So it's pretty nice in terms of the images you see. So again, it is a productivity tool, and that's the aim of this, is to get you going. You can then expound upon all the different areas it highlights. It's identifying areas based on patterns, so there's some relevance in there. So it's kind of like a scientific way of picking the direction of your presentation. It kind of depends on your time. Do you want to optimize your time and productivity and allow it to drive the direction of your presentation, or do you already have something in mind? Again, it's all about planning. Oops. Okay, so we're going to click on that. And Copilot is the new limited release on Windows 11. It does use LLM, or large language modules, combining information from all your resources. So it might go ahead and give you a status report that you can produce in Excel based on all the information as to what you've done. So remember, I don't know if y'all remember when we had the COVID work from home, and we all were able to do those. I don't know if y'all did them, but we had logs that we had to make. So that might be able to create you a COVID log where it tells you based on all your activities what exactly you did, so you could turn that log into your boss. That's the type of thing you can do by combining all the information that Microsoft Copilot has access to. So this week, it actually appeared. So again, you see, this is Copilot. It's on my desktop on the right-hand side. It's pinned to my bar, and it just is giving me some directions that I can ask it anything, that it will give me the options for conversation style, and it is powered by Bing Chat, with Bing Chat Copilot. So that's the newest thing that's come out in terms of that, and it's on pre-release, looks like. Now, I don't know how many of you have used this, but PowerPoint actually has a wonderful rehearsal coach that you can use. You just click on the slideshow tab and click on rehearse with a coach. It will, if you have your web camera on, actually look at your body language and give you an opportunity to critique you on things from talking too fast. If you use too many things like that, it will identify those and give you a report that tells you how to improve things. I think the best thing from my standpoint is something that I would have not necessarily thought it would do, or that I would even look at in my own presentations, is inclusive language. So for instance, if you use the phrase "you guys" in the presentation, it would let you know that that's non-inclusive. So that's really a good thing that it can do to improve things and create better engagement with your audience based on inclusivity. It also lets you know that you should not be reading exactly what's on the slides, because the importance of the presentation is to use the slides as an outline and to really speak about your greater knowledge on the topic. So it is escape to end it, and then it produces this report, and you see that report on the screen. And then you can rehearse again, and it gives you your pace. It tells you the summary, how many slides, if there were any sensitive phrases. So it looks at originality and the pitch and tone of your voice. So I think it kind of gives you an all-around feel to how effective and engaging your presentation will be based on the parameters that it thinks are important for that. So the other thing I want to talk about are the add-ins in PowerPoint. So in PowerPoint, you can access a variety of add-ins. They're also available in all the Office products. Basically, all you do is go to the Home tab, select add-ins, and type AI. And you can do that at any of the Office 365 family of products, and then you'll be able to access a variety of things. You'll see that a lot of them do require a payment of some sort, but not every one. And so it's very helpful in terms of seeing how AI is already helping you. So one of the things we saw earlier was that we were able to embed a web viewer into that first slide to see our results of the Google Cloud, of the cloud about artificial thinking. That is an AI add-in. So you can see that this is becoming central to enhancing the capabilities of each of the software platforms that we use. Canva, I don't know who uses Canva, but Canva is great for all sorts of graphics. I use it to advertise things for the dog rescues that I support. I use it to make flyers for the AOP or Sigma Alpha Lambda or the Wesley Foundation, any of those. Canva has AI generation built in so that you can go in and actually type in information and add things. So last time I went into Canva, I actually used this called text to image, and it lets you like draw a circle around an image, and then you tell it what you want it to fill in instead. So what I had was like a puppy, and I erased the puppy and filled it in with a bear. So that's the kind of thing that can happen now. And they just launched something today called Magic Studio. So it's a whole bunch of AI creation tools. So let me see if I can show you a bit of that really quickly. Let me stop sharing that and share just a browser window. Okay, 1 second. I'm going to share this window with you. Okay, so this is Canva. I'm going to get it smaller. And I'm just trying to get it to stop telling me about itself. So we're going to pick student. And it wants you to give you some information. Skip that. Okay. So this is Magic Studio. So right there, it's asking you for 5 words to describe your design. So you could say office professionals fundraiser. And so it's going to try to find what it thinks, like there's some fundraisers. And you could just use those templates. Some of these are for pay, unfortunately. So I try to go away from those and pick something else. And right there, you see it's Magic Switch. You can translate your document to another language, turn your design to a summary, a blog post, or song lyric. Change the Instagram post, videos, website. And then, of course, there is the type text to image. So that's an app. I think they've gotten rid of that app. So there's another one. And again, once you add these apps in, you can just tell it what you want. I'm going to put teddy bear on a skateboard. It got locked up. And it'll actually create images based on what you would like. And this one's called Doll E. And there you go. Teddy bear on a kite. And you can insert it in your thing and get rid of other things and make something else. And it also changes your writing to more fun. Try it out. So you see it changed the, hey, they're awesome secretaries. So it can change the tone of what you write. All you do is click on Magic Write. Take a chance. And it changed it a little bit more. So as you can see, it does a lot in terms of making your flyers really great. So I definitely encourage you to give it a try. Like I said, this is a brand new launch of all these AI generated products, and some of them are coming and going. Like looks like text to image is now gone and been replaced by Doll E. But Doll E is doing the same thing as text to image did. So I'm going to stop sharing and go back to the presentation. So concerns. What concerns do we have? Well, they're all relatively focused on ethics. What's the bias problems? Well, when we're feeding it data, there's already bias in the data, So then you could take a chance that decision making has bias based on it already being included in all the amount of data that is digesting and processing. There's also privacy and surveillance concerns, as AI can be listening, I'm sure that you have seen when I'm not speaking, but sometimes when you're typing in a search, all of a sudden you get all those other ads for things. Well, if it listens to you, the same thing can be said. So to what degree is our privacy protected when we're using all these tools? Unethical use of tools to replace word product. And like we said, there are issues with students trying to turn things in. There are issues with lawyers trying to turn things in. In fact, those lawyers I referenced before got a $5,000 fine. When it's creating content for you, it's known as generative AI. So some of the companies have been banning the use of generative AI as part of their, organizational guidelines. So that may be something, that we will have to look at as an institution. I've seen a lot of emails lately for syllabuses that talk about AI and how you cannot use it or to what degree you can. That is the new thing that I've seen a lot of emails and presentations about. So we're just trying to kind of figure out how we work within this new world of AI. And one of the things that involves is thinking about the future. Um, 2 years ago, this wasn't a problem. 2 years ago, this wasn't where it is now. It wasn't infiltrating every sector of everything that we're dealing with. So it brings a lot of concern and scary thoughts. Will my job be here? I do a lot of research. Um, AI also does a lot of research. So it is concerning in that way. But you shouldn't be concerned because the human touch and the ability to interact with people is not something that it can emulate. Like I said, they hire people to make it sound like the AI content is written by a person. So it's not a replaceable thing to think that AI is going to take over producing content just like people. We are a little bit too original and probably a little bit too not cookie cutter. And that's what makes us, special and unique and also makes us outsourceable to some degree. So that's important to always keep in mind. But there are job roles that are being created as people figure out that they can get this information quickly from AI, but maybe it's not as usable as they would like it to be. And so they need people to make it functional. We do think that productivity expectations will increase, but let's be honest, we all have seen productivity expectations increase before AI. So that's not really a surprise. Research about AI and in collaboration with AI will be increasing because AI can empower research and optimize what we do. I mean, but that may be, key to progressing on the path to discoveries that we hadn't imagined because it can process things and do things in ways and with a speed that a human being cannot do. And we're going to be able to learn more. You'll see a lot of opportunity to even begin on an AI career. I think in some research I was doing the other day, there's probably about 10 free courses that you can take about AI to learn about. Google has a free course. There's some courses from some institutions on edX that will allow you to really understand how the Python machine learning can be triggered and how to develop those codes and how to use AI functionally, not just to have the theory or the basics is what we've gone over today. It really involves the computer side of it. So if you want to learn about that, there's going to be more careers developing in that sector. So that may be something you want to do. They say now that people have several careers during their lifetime. So maybe that's your next incarnation. It's a growing field and it's a well-paying field. There's a variety of jobs. If you go into Google and just type jobs and AI, you'll get a lot of job listings there and they're very well paying. So it's something to think about. So questions, there's always going to be more going on with AI. I have updated this presentation 5 times since July. So that can just tell you how much we have going on with AI and how much we will continue to see AI become part of our everyday. Like I said, once that chat GPT actually has voice, then I think they're going to even see a big surge in how much people use it and rely on it. And that will also mean it will get smarter and smarter. Where will we be in 5 years? They're predicting it'll be a different world because we'll be able to do so much more. Hopefully that will all be for the better, but again, we probably do need some ethical restraints and some ethical oversight to make sure that it's used for all the good that it can produce, rather than risking relying on human beings to decide how best they use it, because not everybody understands that it's supposed to be a productivity gain, not a end game solution to solving what you're turning in or producing your work for you. So I hope the presentation has been helpful in giving you some insight into what is going on with artificial intelligence and what direction it's going in, and some simple ways that can help you. If you have any questions or you have ideas for some other presentations, I am working on one that'll be focused more on how to use it in Excel, which is going to be like its own presentation because it's a lot that's out there. Um, Things like that. Let me know. I put my personal email on there so I can keep my presentations separate from my USM email, which is very full. So let me know. I'm glad to help if you have other ideas or questions about the presentation or want to just discuss AI. It's one of my favorite topics right now. So I'm game. It was a pleasure, and I hope you enjoyed it and learned a little bit of something. And I hope that you will give it a try because it really can help you get things started. Again, started. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. We have learned a lot today, a lot. So thank you so much for sharing this great information. And I'm sure we'll be in contact with other questions as you continue to update your your information. So thanks again. You have a great day. And
Thank
thanks
you.
everyone for joining. Thank you for joining today.